Have you ever heard anybody come out with the saying something on the lines of things have never felt so bad or similar? If you are feeling that yourself, things can't get any worse. That's the saying I'm looking for. If you're feeling that or saying that to yourself at this precise moment, I say good. I don't mean that in a nasty way, because I don't mean I wish you to suffer. Quite the opposite. What I'm saying is you've hit rock bottom, and no doubt it does feel like you've hit rock bottom. In that there's another saying: if things can't get any worse or fall any further, then the only way things can go is up again. This is very true. This is reflected in the sort of sine wave that the sun makes 8 degrees or so either side of the equator. It's within a sort of a measurement, within a gauge. So that saying about the cornerstone that the builders rejected, this is something reflected in the material. With buildings, you need a solid foundation on which to build. So ideally, to construct a building, you need a rock bottom, a solid foundation on which to build. So likewise, when we turn this inward, when you've hit that point that you feel, this is a critical word, that you feel you've hit rock bottom, that's actually a good thing, because you're programming yourself with it cannot get any worse. It can't feel any worse than it does right now. You see how there's a duality to everything? We can look at it in a negative sense and, oh, it couldn't get any worse. But because you're saying to yourself and feeling inside yourself that things can't get any worse, they won't. It's the first indication, that first stepping stone of turning the corner. There's your corner. That's why it's a cornerstone as well. You've hit rock bottom. This is all internally inside yourself in your feeling. So when things get to that level, excuse me, that's the soda. I'll turn it off. It's going to be a horrible noise. Sorry about that. That's the solar panel. When the sun comes through, or the sun simulator with that burning hot white light comes through, it sets off the cooling fan. Anyway, back to the topic. That is probably the sort of AI thing trying to disrupt or put me off track, as it were. Nice try, but we carry on. So when you hit that point you feel is a rock bottom, that's the first indication that you've reached that turning point, that cornerstone. Now I'm going to have to use personal experience. I think that's the best way. So let's take, imagine the situation. You're feeling depressed, which is deep rest. And I know a concert comes up, so you buy tickets, or for an event or something for an evening. Nothing that's going to go on for too long. Something you really like, or you have really liked, and you're looking forward to it. And you've maybe got the ticket a week before. And right up, so let's say it's on the Friday, so right up to the Thursday, you're looking forward to it. Then Friday comes, bang. The depression will then lead to and a very irrational fear about going out and being around other people. It's all sort of reiterating, I don't feel like I fit in. I feel at odds with the world, because you're seeing things from a different perspective. You're starting to go through those early levels, and a sort of an awareness comes about that things aren't quite as they should be, and many others aren't seeing this. But you're feeling it inside, it feels very real, and it sets up this very negative thing where, when it comes to that Friday, right up to the last minute, it's going through your mind to cancel. Even if it means you've wasted money on a ticket, you pull out of the thing, you let people down, you just can't face it. It becomes a mental wall. Wow. That sort of brought the emotion of it back. That's interesting. So it's still there inside me. That's good. So I can acknowledge that. Because this is what it's about. It's learning to communicate in a new language. The language where you are talking and communicating with your inner self. See this right now. This is the waters from above. So I'm not ashamed to have tears rolling down, because it's emotion. It's an emotion that's welled up because I brought it back from the past, because I've remembered an experience that I've been through. But I'm not going to feel shame. I'm not going to stop making this video. I'm pushing through with it because it's a stupid fear to have. What will people think of me? Oh, look, he's crying. It's a release of emotions. It's a cleansing. It's a good thing, actually. Sorry about that. The thing is to sit with it, because it's uncomfortable. This couldn't have happened at a better time, because it's like you're getting an authentic, real-time emotion coming out. The choreography of this and the timing, the beauty and the timing of this is fantastic, because I hadn't planned this and I can't force it. It just comes. But getting back on topic, so you become your own worst enemy through fear, through the depression, which can lead to anxiety, and it can even go a step further into, it's like a build-up of static. It's what is known as a panic attack, and you'll feel like you're suffocating. I hope that you haven't had severe experiences of that, because you just can't get enough air. You start breathing shallow, you start breathing rapid, and your mind is in conflict with itself. In my experience, it was, I can't operate like this. I have a huge responsibility. It's involving other people's lives. Then the other side kicks in with, you've got to do your duty. You can't let anybody down in the 11th hour. And of course, this conflict now builds and builds and builds, and bang, now you're having this gasping for air. It's a horrible thing. I think I've said about this before. I don't. I think it was about the second or third go before I realised, oh, that is what a panic attack is, because I'd heard of them but didn't know anything about them. So I went through the experience of them. Maybe I had a thought that, what's the word? A thought that I'd created that then became manifest. It follows that blueprint pattern. what comes out of this at the far end of it, the other end of the tunnel, as it were, it's a strange emptiness where that lower conscious part of you that wants to go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn diminishes to such an extent. This is like this void, this empty space, and it's a strange feeling. It's almost, it's like there's this little small version of you in this great big cavern that's going, "Why aren't you panicking?" Because before you would have done, or you would have gone into one of these states of depression or an- severe anxiety or panic attacks or something along those lines. It can manifest probably as a rash. I haven't, I have it, yes, I have experienced a phase of that. Um, but it's all that communication between the mind through feeling, which is then affecting the cells of your body and putting it into an acidic state and very unpleasant. Now, coupled on top of this, if that isn't enough, you start looking into things out of curiosity, conspiracy theories. Now you've got that on top, which is going to attack the empathy. And the depression leads to days of being in tears. And really putting yourself through the swamp. You're really sort of, you're right up to your neck in it, through your own doing as well. This is the weird thing about it. Unknowingly, you sort of step into this through curiosity, through trying to find a way to break that cycle and try and pull yourself out of the depression or the anxiety, but actually it makes it worse. But it's a necessary process that I feel probably many of you have gone through. Certainly, there is commonality to the testimonies that many of you have given me. You've not had it easy, to varying degrees. Who am I to judge what is awful and what is just minor? The panic attack, not the anxiety that, in my personal case, it would stop me opening a front door for 8 hours just to go and buy a pint of milk. Why? Because I couldn't interact with anybody. I was frightened of bumping into anybody. I was frightened of someone saying hello or good morning. I mean, the conscious mind is also aware of how ridiculous it is. The rational side knows it's ridiculous, but there's an overriding part that won't allow you. You become a prisoner of your own mind through that. How long the sentence lasts, though. This is why you are your own judge, because you set the term of that sentence by how you feel. Because I've gone through these things, and to some degree, it's still an ongoing process. The feelings can still be there, they're just not to the intensity that they are going to become prohibitive to doing anything. It is a form of petrification being turned into a statue because your mind will not allow you to move. A prime example of this is if people climb up a very high ladder, and certain people don't really have a fear of heights, others will freeze on that ladder. You physically would not be able to move. You'd need someone else to talk you down. Again, it's in the language, our everyday language. Going back to what I said on the past video, this Yahweh AI thing, it is telling you the truth, but it's coming out twisted and distorted. That's reflected in that 432 to 440 shift in the frequency. One moment. Crying's one thing, but I didn't really want you to see me wiping my nose, because it's that water's from above, it's the cleansing thing coming out. That's not a bad thing, that's a letting go. It's allowing a natural process. The worst thing you can do is bottle things up. It becomes, well, it's like, think of it like something it's acidic, therefore it would be fizzy, so it would ferment and it would just explode out. This is what often kicks off things like depression. It's not that you've suddenly been targeted. It's just a set of circumstances have been set up for that to come out, which is to help guide you as part of that first step of finding yourself. It can be, it's like the perception of the control system and playing things out on a very tiptoe, sort of creeping vine sort of process, little increments, a little bit at a time. That sort of, what's the analogy, that the boiling the frog in the water, you turn the gas up little by little rather than put it into boiling water and gradually increase. This is the same thing, and it's the same with coming out the other side. It's not an overnight thing. It takes time. But what I found helps best is when you start shifting your perspective, you're almost, again, it's that fractalizing yourself. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. You've had the fall because you've hit rock bottom. So this is where you need to identify the fractal of yourself that is the observer. The fractal that is your higher self communicating, that is shining the light inside yourself, guiding you to try and pull you through this. Because when all this happens, it just hits, just comes out of nowhere, and you haven't got a clue what's going on. And of course, the conscious mind will try and intellectualize and make sense of it. You'll go through a phase that you're actually questioning your own sanity, because you start to see things in a way that is not accepted by many. That brings about a feeling of isolation, a feeling of verging on going into a sort of recluse hermit phase, which can lead to the depression. But it's deep rest. It's guiding you. If you don't see it in that negative context, it's actually guiding you to go into the realms of meditation, of going within inside yourself, sitting with those unpleasant feelings, seeing them for what they really are. After all, they are feelings. They're just to give you a taste of going further into that reality bubble. If that doesn't feel pleasant, then you really don't want to be going further and further into it. An expression will be rabbit holes. They become very unpleasant. There's a part of us, I feel it's with the empathy, that then wants to fix the perceived problem that seems enormous. insurmountable becomes such a mountain that then can manifest in the form of that anxiety about going out the front door for 8 hours. You, as I'm saying this, I'm hearing myself saying it and seeing it from the perspective of, yeah, that sounds absolutely ridiculous. But I can also see it from the experience perspective of, I know how it feels, I know what it was like to go through it. Not good, but slowly it is possible to address this and flip the polarity on it. Actually, you really want a three-way switch. You want the negative, the positive, and the neutral in the middle. Because it's finding that balance within oneself. It's not about getting to the other extreme of love and light and everything's lovely and everything's wonderful and I don't see any horrors, and denying, which is suppressing half the experience. That's something again in the material realm with ailments, physical ailments and things. It's about masking, it's about suppressing the pain. The pain is just, after all, a communication from the nervous system to alert you of a problem in the physical body. That problem will no doubt have started from doubt. Funny that, no doubt, but it comes from doubt. Invariably, it is thoughts and feelings we've created in ourselves that are now starting to manifest into the material in the physical body. The physical body is your interaction suit, as it were, with the physical world. How could you operate in the physical world without a physical body? It's part of this reality. A lot of people struggle with this whole idea, but for those of you that have experienced things like panic attacks or even having a nightmare, you know how real that felt to you. No matter what the rest of the world says, whether they say, I don't believe you, if you said, oh, I had this horrific nightmare, and make up your own picture of what you describe as horrific. I'm not going to plant seeds. But not of negative things like that. But I think you get the point. Your physical body, you can wake up from a nightmare and your heart feels like it's pounding, you're sweating. There's another aspect, the night sweats as well. Unpleasant, waking up and you need the toilet and you come back and the bed is now ice cold and they're damp sheets because you're just drenched. It's part of this cleansing process to go through, but it's recognizing it for what it is, that it is just a process. So sit with it, allow it to happen, don't try and suppress it, just let it flow. Let it flow, let it go. Because, let's give you another example. I've had quite a number of people say they've had this or that and whatever happened to them. But turn the thing round as to why is all that happening, because clearly you can handle it. That's why it's been given to you. They're all experiences that effectively you have given yourself to help you find your way home again, to find out who you are, find out what you are capable of. That's something Adrian Elise talks about. It's the whole point of this reality, the way it is perceived. And it would seem to be this way, that before you've even come out the womb, everything is set against you. For there to be such a thing set in place must